Hello, this is CS146. I'm Matthew Ventures. Let's get into it. Today we're talking about the roadmap, the project roadmap. And I've got a few examples from several students, several CS146 alumni here that we're going to talk through. I think a lot of them use Product Plan, which I think is a great website. I'll certainly link that in the assignment. Um, yeah, let's just look at what some of them did that was helpful and what I think improvements could be made. Okay, so when I'm looking at a roadmap, I really want to know who is going to be working on what and when. That's essentially all I need to know. And I think okay, so let's check out this roadmap right here. It's a lot to look at first thing, but what you can notice is that you've sort of got this this section over here, if you could see my mouse. Then we've got this section to the right a little bit down here. And then we've got the section to the right a little bit more down here. And so basically they've got this sort of like first week, second week, third week thing going on, which I don't think is really necessary because none of this space is being used, right? So you could have just taken all these different columns, essentially, or different rows, and combined them into one row with all of these different columns represented. So I think that's what I would have liked to see in this version. Additionally, I don't know who is working on what. So we have these different we have these different tasks being written down, such as and they're color coded too. This says up here, it says class deadline versus learning goal versus final project 1. But I mean, I don't really know what those represent. So add egg harvesting and mineral collection. That's actually a really good description. That probably means a lot to them. I don't know what game this is, so it doesn't help me. But the key takeaways I think from this one are, just condense it, be efficient with the amount of space you're using, and then make it more clear what each person is working on as part of the game. And I think they did a good job of identifying the different dates here. So I think that's one of the things they did really well, is like to say assignment 7 is due on this date, and that's where it comes up in the project timeline. Okay, let's check this one out. So what these guys did really well is they identified who is working on what. So I could see Maya is doing this stuff during this date, and Jeffrey is doing this stuff, right? So while Jeffrey is adding the gliding fire breathing, James is creating the wood push physics. So that reads really well, and I think it's an efficient use of space because even though we have like some blank area over here, it's using the overlap. Whereas this one, there's nothing happening down here where there's something happening up here. So they did a really good job of splitting it up, and so they've got the to-do for this person, this person, this person, and then the to-do for everyone/anyone. So just be careful about sort of the anyone tasks, because you want someone to be held accountable for it, so you know who's going to be doing what. But if everybody needs to do a brainstorm session, then I think it makes sense to put in its own category. So I think these guys did a really good job. The only thing I would have liked to see here is using color to help draw the eye to certain things. I think that these guys did a great job of having this sort of like demo day and these different deadlines and sort of this bright red that draws your attention. I would have liked to see that on this Gantt chart as well. And maybe color coding to help me look at one particular thing. I don't know, maybe that's level design or something. Again, that might be particular to a certain row, so I'm not sure. But each team is going to need a little bit something different. Okay, let's check this out. So this team, wow, really efficient. We've just got a few rows here, but what they omitted was who's working on which task, which is something very important to have in a product plan, so or a roadmap. So I would have liked to see that. Please add that. And then what I think they did, which was really smart here, is they sort of just gave us the one line, such as feature number 2 up here. And then down here, they went into a broader definition of what feature number 2 is. So for some of these, items, it takes a lot of information to describe what that task is going to be. And so they just give us sort of the one line up here, and then they go into lower detail down here. I think that's a great strategy and one I highly recommend for your team's roadmap. They did a good job of, color here. I think it looks beautiful. But again, I can't tell who's doing which task or when the deadlines are, which I think are really important to get your team on the same page of what is due when. You know, I can understand Feature 2 needs to be done by November 14th, but knowing things like when the game trailer needs to be up and stuff like that, I think that's very important. Okay, let's see what's going on here. So product roadmap, these guys have similar deadlines to the first team we saw. I think they did that very well. And they've divided it into rows by a different contributor, which is also great. However, okay, and then they have basically this atlas down here, or this, what do you call that? I don't know, a glossary or something, a guideline. Manifest? I'm not sure what the word is. But what you're going to notice is that this team did not do a good job of defining what each one of these tasks are. So while this team did a great job of going into greater detail down here within the details, right, section, this team just has code mechanics. Now, what does that mean? It's a little hard to understand what that means, and so I don't think they did a very good job of that. Additionally, this task, code mechanics, spans 2.5 weeks, which is a little bit too long for any given task because, you know, it's too vague, it's too amorphous. That is something which I think has a very high likelihood of going over budget with respect to time. So I would highly recommend we don't have long tasks like that. If we have to code mechanics, let's break it down. What's the mechanic we could do, you know, November 7th to 14th? What's the mechanic we can do November 14th to 21? Try to break it down, discretize it into smaller chunks. You don't want to have essentially, I mean, because we could all make a roadmap that's just one long task, which is make the damn game. But the whole point of this is to break it up into smaller pieces so that we can figure out, okay, how are we doing? What does our velocity look like? And if we need to cut something, what are some of the chunks that we can move around? So these are just some thoughts to keep in mind while you're designing your roadmap. Good luck.